A soldier, an airman, and a Marine walk into a room. This show is the punchline. My name is Ryan Smeltz, and you're watching Veteran Talk Show.
All right, guys. So in case you don't know, we are an affiliate for Soldier Girl Coffee Company. I'm super excited about this because they have amazing coffee. And in future episodes, you will see us drinking Soldier Girl coffee. They also have a CBD coffee. So if you need some CBD, which helps support your health in a sense of relaxation, it helps with your sleep and your overall health on a day-to-day basis, then Soldier Girl Coffee has both that and the caffeine you need. So be sure to check out the link in the show notes. Go ahead and click that, shop around, and make sure you get yourself some Soldier Girl Coffee today. Yeah, we heard duck.
Oh, really?
It was kind of funny because if I remember correctly, the drill sergeant that always said it, his last name was Mallard. So Drill Sergeant Mallard.
What's going on here? It's falling.
You got a Phillips head? It's a screw right here.
I do downstairs. Oh, well, it's fine. All right. It's fine. I'm just trying to... That'll be all right.
As long as it works.
It works.
And you're comfortable. I'll check my phone periodically to see if anybody wants to hop on. But yeah, so we submitted paperwork for our pre-approval.
Oh, for your house?
Yeah, definitely.
That's gonna bother me.
Definitely not gonna make it easier because it's got plenty of work from here on out, getting other stuff around, and then once we have a pre-approval amount, we're gonna have to go house shopping.
Yeah, well,
and, I'm okay with that. I mean, we really have one must-have, and that's a yard of some sort for nuggets.
Oh, that's it? That's all you've got for...
I want a garage, but if we don't have one, we don't have one now, so it's not a big deal.
I have a garage. I can't use it. So,
why?
With my car, the truck won't fit.
Yeah.
Yeah. My garage door doesn't come up enough. I mean, you can make it fit, but it's like with her
it's not just pull in and you're in. It's
you've got to cut, and then with her having a car, she can't get in there with my truck in there. We did this because of the storms. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago where they were like golf ball or egg size shaped hail was going to hit? You don't remember this?
Didn't hear about it.
I have to pay attention to the weather reports for work. So, but, I was like, well, we need it. So we came home on I think this was like a Wednesday. We cleaned the garage out so we could fit both cars in there to protect them from the elements. And then we backed in. I mean, they canceled like schools and shit because the storms were supposed to be so bad. And I was able to get she had to park in first, and then I could back my truck in, and it was fine. But if I'm in before her, she can't get in.
Is it technically a 2-car garage?
It technically is, yes.
Okay. But like 2 Toyota Corolla cars.
I mean, if my door was different, both cars could fit easily.
Yeah. Without
having to. But the way the door is, it's width-wise.
Yeah.
Like, so when you go into the garage, it like juts to both sides, about 2 feet, 3 feet, which is really weird. And then the door itself doesn't go that high. So when I'm backing up the hill, because my driveway's on that hill, you're kind of like, ooh, shit, I'm going to hit the top of the garage. And my antenna will actually hit, and my satellite antenna will miss by like a millimeter. I mean, it barely gets under the garage. And I'm like, wow.
So it's a combination of things. Yeah, I mean, like, sure, we want a garage. I mean, I feel like
you've got to have more of a wish list.
We have plenty of a wish list,
What are your must-haves? We're going to do HGTV for a little bit.
Okay, so we want 3 bedrooms because we want to have a guest room and then one where we can both set up our offices. Depending on the budget, if we can get 4, then I think 4 would be ideal. I think she said 2 full bathrooms is the minimum.
Yeah.
Right now we're running off 2.5. Doesn't really matter to me because that other guest room will have one, and then we'll have one, and that's pretty much all we need.
Yeah.
I think she wants an open floor plan, so very similar to your kitchen, dining room, living room downstairs. I kind of like it too because I don't have to play fucking Tetris. It's
nice when you have a bunch of people over.
You know,
like when I have family or something over, we set the kids up in the living room, turn on TV for them, or they can go out in the yard if it's dry and play. If it's not, so like
you can
rainy.
Watch, you can talk.
And most of my family just hangs out around the kitchen anyway. So everybody just kind of pulls up a chair around the island and just sits, and like we just start drinking for 3 or 4 hours and talking.
Yeah,
I mean that's what we do.
I think that's kind of what we're looking at there. So the yard is a must have.
Like, for nugs.
We're not gonna.
But you don't need.
We're not gonna look at a house and have our dream home and no yard.
Well,
and you know, like it's kind of like I told her we were discussing what agent we're gonna go through.
I have an agent if you want to use one. He's really good. I went to high school with him and his sister. And
it's kind of up to her. She's got a couple of friends that we're looking at going with, but I was like, I don't really care as long as we say, okay, our budget is say 280.
Yeah.
And they don't do that HGTV bullshit.
Yeah.
They're like, I know it's 290.
Yeah. No. So this guy, so we were referred to him. I knew his little sister because she's closer to my age than he is. And I knew of him because he's like 3 or 4 years older than me.
Yeah.
But I was referred to them by our real estate agent who was selling our home in Louisiana because they were giving us a deal. If we went through whoever they suggested, they would cut off some of the commission for the sell.
Yeah.
I was like, fine, send me who you want. But this guy was really great because he does his own. He also does flips on his own. Like that's part of what he does. And so we would go into a home and he would flat out he'd be honest with you. He'd be walking around. He'd be like, oh man, looks really nice. And he'd start like looking at it because he's got a contractor's license too. And he's like, he would look and he'd go, no, you don't want this house. Like there was one house we walked into and we loved it. And it was out and it was set on like almost an acre lot. It was out in the middle of the woods. I was like, fuck yeah. And it was nice inside, you know? And so we're standing outside and I'm like sitting there like, all right, let's, you know, get a plan together on how we're going to make this offer. Cause we still at that point we hadn't closed on our house in Louisiana. And so we're kind of coming up with a plan. And all of a sudden we heard this noise and he stops and he's like, what is that? And it was a mechanical sound. It was like this kind of sound. And we looked and right under the house, there was like spurts of water coming out. So they had a sub pump. So it sat at the base of this hill. And luckily it was a rainy day.
Yeah.
And it sat at the base of this hill. And so all the water was running down the hill into their crawl space.
Yeah.
And they had pumps pumping it out. And he's like, nope, you're not putting an offer in on this house. He's like, I don't even have to go in there. If they've got a sub pump in there, pumping water out, there's water damage in there. And he's like, he's like, absolutely. But we'd go into other houses that were flips. Like we walked into a few nice houses and he would look and he'd go, yeah, this was done right. Like he'd pull stuff out. He'd like pull like ovens and shit out. And he'd be like, yep, this was done right. Or nope, this was done wrong. And he'd tell you straight up. He'd be like, he would go, yeah, if this is the house for you, then let's make an offer. But if there was something wrong with it, he would look at you and go, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Don't even try.
So do you know, because I know inspections are a big thing, and I just recently read a horror story on Facebook because
you're getting a VA, you're doing the VA loan?
I'm not 100% yet.
Okay. So if you do the VA loan, basically what's going to happen is whoever's doing your lending, whatever bank, they're going to go through a VA approved inspector. So it's not just any schmuck.
But is that gonna cover the plumbing, electrical, HVAC, foundation, structural?
Yeah, they'll look at everything.
So it's going to be just a single inspector, but he's going to report everything.
Yeah, well, that's what all inspectors do. But he's certified through the VA because the VA, if you're using the VA is co-signing the loan.
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah.
So the VA has inspectors that you have to use. Now I have so here I didn't have a problem with the guys we used here. My people in Louisiana, that was a whole different horror story.
Yeah.
So, or this was not the inspector, this was the appraisal.
Okay.
So the appraisal is where you have to use and that's not the inspector. I was wrong. The appraisal. Because you're going to have to get the house appraised.
Yeah, I'm familiar with what you're talking about because I actually went through a little bit of the process in 2009.
Yeah.
I had just gotten back from deployment, so I didn't know that the housing market had crashed.
Yeah.
So I think I told you this before. It appraised for like 60 and she was asking 100 to 110.
Yeah, and the bank was just going to be like.
So everybody just bailed at that point. So we didn't get any further than that, but it was the appraisal. But the main reason I asked about inspections is this one lady put the report on there and it basically said what she should have known, like, hey, this is kind of broken.
Yeah.
You might want to address it, but it didn't use that language.
So
so it's like, then she's like, now I have this huge problem, but I didn't realize it because it wasn't written in plain fucking English.
Yeah. Well, so it just depends. I don't really know the state laws here. Like in New York, if you get a home inspection, the reason I know this is because my brother-in-law lives in New York. He's a real estate agent. And he told me that once a house is inspected, anything that's wrong until it's fixed stays with that house, and it is public record. So if you so let's say you go for a house, right, in New York, and something goes with the inspection. That inspection sits, I think my brother-in-law said, for like a year on that house until you have some kind of document that says, yes, this has been fixed.
Okay.
So there's no hiding it. And so if you went for something, found something egregiously wrong and backed out of the negotiation because of that, because you guys couldn't come to an agreement on the issue on how to fix it, then when I came into the next house, the seller now was required to put that inspection report with the listing that says, hey, this has been listed and here's the last inspection that was had 2 months ago, and I would be able to see it.
So the other question I have about those is who can do them? Because from
you hire the inspector. Usually your real estate agent will have someone who they work with and that they go with. So for a buyer, an inspector is great because an inspector is going to come in and find shit. That's their job. Whether there's nothing wrong or not, they're going to find. It's kind of like when you first get to boot camp. No matter how well you do, you're going to do something wrong and get punished for it, right? Yeah. Like that's just part of at least in the Marine Corps, that's how it was. Like, it's first
the
phase.
Design. They want you to screw up because it's designed to bring you up to a certain standard.
Yeah. So it just depends on what they find. Like, so the stuff they found here was nothing. I think the biggest thing they found in this house was there was something with the electrical panel and the access to it. And so we just decided, hey, you guys go ahead and tear that out. Once it's torn out, because they had like a tool bench in the garage and they had like something covering the electrical panel, and the electrician's like, I can't see inside of this until this thing moves.
Okay.
And so the inspector then goes,
that's weird that they would do that, because aren't you talking about the breaker box?
Mm-hmm.
So if the breaker goes out,
you could still open it, but he couldn't like get in there or do whatever it is he needed to do to make sure the electrical worked or whatever.
Yeah.
Make sure there was no issues. So basically we told the seller, hey, take this down and let us come back and at least have our inspector look at that. And they were fine with it. They were like, all right, we're going to leave it up for you because it's a good place to hang tools and whatever. It was great. But we were more worried about if there was something wrong with and there was nothing wrong with the electrical system. There was nothing wrong with the wiring, everything checked out. And the inspector came back. He was here for maybe 15 minutes and was like, you're good.
Yeah.
But that was really like the biggest. The other small thing, he was like, the toilet downstairs had a bad seal.
Yeah.
And so occasionally it would leak water. And he's like, it's not causing you foundation problems. So he's like, just at some point, you're going to need to replace the toilet or buy a new seal, take the toilet, lift the toilet up, put the new seal on, put the toilet back down.
Yeah. Because as far as like plumbing and electrical and HVAC, I have an idea.
Hi, Max.
on like what I want.
Yeah.
Because if I go into a place, I don't care if it doesn't have any problems. I don't want any polybutylene pipe.
Yeah. Well, we did a radon test here and everything. I mean, our inspectors went all out, and we pay for it. I mean, it's on you to pay for it as the buyer. Millie, that's my foot. That's enough. She's like going to town on my foot right now. She hates this cone.
So the inspector was all one though, because I got a vague impression that you had to get like a plumbing inspection.
No, it's all in one.
It's just you get
it's all in one. Yeah,
that's it. Okay, that's good because a lot won't slow me down, but if they come back with, if
there's something seriously wrong, you need to know
foundation damage.
Yeah,
like where the house is settling. I lived in a house in Texas that had that, and you could. Yeah, it'd been happening for a long time, so you could see cracks.
Yeah, we saw a house in North Raleigh that had foundation issues.
No,
and the seller, because we were the only ones looking at putting in a offer on that house, and our real estate agent said, "Hey, we want to put an offer in, or we're thinking about putting an offer in. Here's the one problem we see in the basement of this house. There's roots coming in from the tree outside, and there's cracks in the wall, And so what they did was they got a certified letter from an engineer that says this is not an issue. It's superficial damage. There's no risk or, and they had an engineer come out and like do that. And we just didn't end up going with that house. Why, I don't know. Well, I do know because it was so far away from my work at that point.
Yeah.
It would be even further now. But I mean, they'll find, the inspector's going to find things. The problem with North Carolina is that you have due diligence money here. And so the problem with due diligence money is when you make your offer, you're going to say, so first off, every house in this area, in the triangle area, is going for more than above listing.
Yep.
So the average house is $340,000, right? People will get on a $340,000 house, they'll get an all cash offer of $360,000, $375,000.
Yeah.
Because it goes quick here. Yep. Like there's not a lot of inventory for the amount of people that's moving here. It's the second or third most competitive housing market in the country.
Yeah.
Nicole's bosses are real estate agents, and they were telling her that at this point in the market, if you have an FSA or VA loan, a buyer will not even consider it, or a seller will not even consider it. They won't even look at the offer.
You said FSA
or VA.
What's FSA?
It's first time home buyer. It's kind of like a VA loan. It kind of has the same benefits, but it's for first time home buyers. So you don't have to have a down payment, relaxed PMI insurance or PMI. All of that stuff. Just like a VA, only it's sponsored for first. It's to encourage people to leave renting and buy homes. So it's for first time home buyers. But right now in this area, people aren't. So last year in this area, houses went up 20% across the board.
Yeah.
All property value went up 20%, which is insane.
It's like I told her, I think the number one issue is going to be the all cash offers, because
where are you looking?
Well, I mean, I know where we don't want to go, because I have to drive to Fuquay to the warehouse. So even if we went up by like the Six Forks area, on out.
Yeah.
But like, I would say you could almost draw a line right there on 440 and 6 straight across west to east, that line and below, because as soon as you hit Capitol Boulevard, number one, the traffic, but that line,
you don't want to live on the north side of Capitol Boulevard. That's a shitty area.
But that line right there and below, and living anywhere in that area would, even if I'm okay getting outside of Raleigh, Garner, Fuquay, Clayton. I think her concern is if they go back to the office, the office for her company is right behind our house now.
So she would have a longer commute.
Well, not necessarily. Not if we got a place in Fuquay, her commute would only be 30 minutes, but then mine would be like 5. So
So I'll tell you, you probably need to look
go
at
too far north, because if we go like to the east side of Raleigh, like say we went to like Nightdale, you know, it might add, I think it adds like 5 minutes to my commute.
Yeah.
But if we go north, especially up Capitol or God forbid, someplace like Wake Forest,
you'd be right down the street
you're
from me,
talking
man.
about an hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
No, that's a pain. I did an hour and a half drive one way when we lived in New Orleans.
Nope.
And it sucked.
They must have paid you very well.
They did. And I didn't want to live in
one of the main
on the South Shore.
One of the main reasons we're in Fuquay is because we looked at a warehouse in Goldsboro and Fuquay, and we both agreed that even though the Fuquay location was a little more expensive, what it came with and the location, because I would be the one driving down there to run it. He has a home office, so he just works at home. I didn't want to drive an hour to work, and I was like, I'm okay with it. If you decide to go to that location, I'll drive an hour. But when it came down to it, the Fuquay location came with a lot more that we wouldn't have to, like, you know.
Have you looked at like Clayton or the Clayton area, Smithfield? I mean, that's kind of on the, well, I mean, it's just down 40.
Cruising. We're waiting on the pre-approval to come through, because my thing is, if we get pre-approved, like, I think our minimum to get what we're looking for is probably 250. But if we get pre-approved for like 300 or 350, you know, that's where
if you're from Capitol to Six Forks in that area, Raleigh, finding something at 250 to 300 is going to be virtually impossible. There's going to be no yard.
Nah, it's more just that's the line.
Yeah.
I don't want to go anywhere above that, but anywhere below that, east, west, you know.
Well, you've got like Quail Hollow over there, like fuck, man. It's like we looked at a house that was $350,000 in between, basically right off of Six Forks, between Six Forks and
they just
Falls.
built places right where we are that look like fucking garbage. They look like trash. Dude, they're 3 stories and they're like as wide as the front door.
Yeah.
And then there's one in front of the other. And if you're in one of the bedrooms, you can reach out the window and touch your neighbor's house.
Yeah.
They start at $320, I think.
Yeah. It's expensive as shit.
And that's where, like, the place we rent, I'm telling you, man, like, I got a deal. And there's people coming over there looking and saying how, oh, you know, this place is a piece of junk, this, that, and the third. I'm like, you ain't going to find a place to rent at this price in this area.
No.
You're not going to find.
Well, you're in like the college area. You're in the NC State. Like a lot of people who rent there are NC State people. They're college kids.
Or
because it's all pretty much
people who live across the street from us. They kind of look like college kids, but they're just younger. I think they might work at NC State.
Yeah. Well,
you can go right around the corner. You can hit 440.
Yeah.
You can hit 40 right across the street. You can hit 54. Like where I am, I promise you, if we finished out our lease and someone else moved in, they're probably going to double it.
Probably.
Minimum. And they can't, because I'm pretty sure the people that live next door, which it's a duplex, pretty sure the people next door paying double. Because right after we moved in, the people finished their lease out, they moved out, somebody else moved in.
Yeah. I
guarantee you.
Landlord's making a killing, man.
It's all about that location.
You got it. So, I mean, for price and of what you want, like you may have to sacrifice drive. Like both of you may have to.
I'm okay with that.
Like you may have to go and deal with the traffic because it's hard. The market is, I mean, this house, I mean, we're kind of out in the middle of nowhere. We're not close to a lot. We're in this big neighborhood.
Well, you got, I mean, one of our main things, well, it's pretty irrelevant, but groceries. You know,
I mean, I'm 5 minutes from a grocery store.
Yeah.
I mean, it takes me 5-10 minutes to get to like Harris Teeter because fuck Food Line. We went through that last week.
Yeah.
Their shitty beer, selling expired beer. Fuckers. Yeah. I'm still butthurt about that. I'm still fucking butthurt.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's fuckers.
Are you able to order?
Order what? We don't have a lot of options to order. I mean, I've got Papa John's, Domino's.
But what about like Instacart, Uber Eats?
We have, yeah, we can do, there's not a lot that'll deliver to us. So we do either DoorDash or Grubhub, but pretty much all we can get are like chain stuff. Like pretty much everything that's at Briar Creek that has DoorDash or Grubhub, we can order from there. But it's all chains. There's not like local mom and pop restaurants around here that are doing deliveries.
Well, I mean, part of that comes down to their business model. We don't need all that stuff. She orders groceries. I don't know.
I've never ordered groceries.
I don't know what the cost
shopping.
looks like, but it is pretty sweet to just like, instead of getting home at 5:30 or 6 o'clock and her being like, all right, now we got to go spend an hour at the grocery store to get groceries. It's just like I get home and they'll show up and I have to take them front door to the kitchen.
So
I don't know what the cost.
We grew up, my wife and I grew up, I think, a lot differently in that. And this is just how I grocery shop. We grocery shop once a week.
Yeah.
And what we do is we plan and we meal plan because neither one of us walks in the door at 5 o'clock. I mean, that just doesn't happen here.
No.
Like I leave the office at 5. She leaves the office at 5. And depending on traffic, it's going to take me anywhere from an hour or from 30 minutes to an hour to get home. For her, it could be anywhere from 15 to 20.
So you just don't know.
I don't.
You're able to do that.
Yeah. So what we do is we basically plan out. Like we sit down, we just start like, what do we want for dinner this week? We just write it down. Like, oh, this would be good, and that would be good, and this would be good, and
Mine
then
would be easy because it would be the same thing every day. I would be like, oh, we can have pizza for dinner, and then
pizza
we can
for
do
breakfast.
pizza for dinner the next day.
Yeah, no,
This sounds really good. Let's just do pizza for dinner.
Well,
every
we look
day.
at like the weather. We're like, oh, Tuesday would be really nice for grilling. Let's get some steaks and grill out. But so we make kind of like a little weekly menu, and like we throw in like, all right, Wednesday night will be leftover night because Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday we'll have leftovers.
That's what I do for lunch.
Yeah, usually that's what we do. But so then we just go and buy a week's worth of groceries, and we have our list. We make our list. We budget for it, and we just go to the grocery store. It gets us out of the house for like an hour, on a weekend. Like when we don't have anything to do, like we, cleaned up, and usually it happens Saturday morning. We'll wake up, we'll have coffee, we'll start cleaning, we'll do laundry, we'll start our weekly, like all the laundry that we need to do. And then we will sit down, make a list, go grocery shopping. And then Saturday afternoon, we usually go hang out with friends and family. If we do anything Saturday.
Yeah, it is.
And
kind of nice. Hers is definitely based off of.
We write that shit on a calendar, man. We literally have a calendar on our fridge that says Monday night pork, like barbecue. Tuesday night we're doing like salmon.
About your meals.
Like we're just playing. So because usually when we get home, if we haven't done that, and there are times when we don't do it. We don't do it. We try and do it as much as we can. There are times we get home and we haven't done that, and we're just kind of like, "What's for dinner? I don't fucking know. I'm too tired. Fuck it. Cheese and crackers. That's what we eat." Like not ordering, because we don't want to order every night. We don't want to be those people. So we're just like, oh, is there any leftovers? No. All right. Well, it's fend for yourself. Oh, there's some ramen in here. Like, all right, I'll get some ramen. But we try and plan.
Yeah. She plans out the meals, but I cook the breakfast, so
we don't eat breakfast. Like we literally
same thing for breakfast every day.
We do not. So we set our coffee maker every night before we go to bed to make coffee every morning. We literally get up because I work outside with sawdust and I get dirty, so I don't get up and take a shower.
No,
I take a shower when I get home. So I get up and it's like I throw my clothes on, go downstairs, pour my cup of coffee, grab my computer, hop in the truck, go to the job site, and I'm like, done. Like I'm literally like, there are some mornings, and I need to start being better about this because this is really my time. But I'll get up 15 minutes, 20 minutes before I have to leave, and I'll just brush my teeth, wash my face real fast, grab my work pants, my boots. Peace out.
So I worked really hard at this, but the last 2 weeks I've been getting up at 4 a.m.
I did that the other day.
I worked really hard to make that happen because I've got a morning routine I want to square away, as well as I want to get some computer work done before I go in. Because when I'm at the warehouse, like there's a very nice laptop there I can use.
Yeah.
But it's like, if I'm going to do computer work, like he doesn't dictate what I do when I do it or anything like that. So if I'm going to do computer work, I'll do it at home, because the computer I built too can handle pretty much anything I need to be able to do. So when I get to the warehouse, I want to do stuff like I want to organize, I want to increase efficiency. I sent out 2 shipments and I said, okay, this is working. But now I've got another guy. So it's going to be 3 of us. I've got another guy starting Monday. So this isn't going to work for 3 people. Let's make it more efficient. So I did that. And so I want to, whenever I'm at the warehouse, I want to spend.
Oh, you moved out of the storage locker?
Oh, yeah. Fuck yeah.
I didn't know you had moved out of the storage locker.
Yeah, like 2 months ago. At March 15th.
Nice.
I think was our first day down there.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to come see the warehouse.
No, you did, because I told you, but I don't think we spent a lot of time talking.
I did what?
You knew.
Oh, I knew. You mentioned the warehouse. I didn't know you had fully moved out.
Oh, yeah. So
I have to come see the warehouse, though.
Well, another thing I'm doing, because my focus now is more prep, because all the clients, all the people I deal with is FBA prep. So with the books, they've kind of taken a back seat. I'm going to shift. I'm shutting down all my merchant fulfilled channels, and I'm just going to do FBA, which is basically I'm going to go through and scan all of them. If it sells on FBA, I'm going to keep it. If it doesn't, I'm going to donate it. And that's going to make me more lean. I'm not going to have carts of fucking books that I got to fulfill orders every day. It's just going to be I receive a shipment, I scan through it, FBA goes over here and gets sent to Amazon for fulfillment. The rest go out the door, which is really sweet because that means the carts that I do have, because the carts replace the 2x4 shelves.
Mm-hmm.
I am using those for material staging. So at this station, if you're polybagging, in this station you're labeling, then there's a tape dispenser here, there's polybag staged here. And some things I've learned about efficiency, it's a little tricky, but like when you get your polybags in, they come 100 inside of this plastic wrap. Okay. Right. And then there's 5 of those inside of a cardboard box that Amazon seals like a motherfucker. So it's like, when you get supplies delivered, open the fuckers up, figure out where the station is, does it need replenished, and go ahead and do that. Because if every single time that I need a poly bag, or say I use 100 poly bags, like one of our top sellers, we prep, where our goal is to be able to prep 8,000 units a day for our top seller. We're looking at a machine to help automate that, but the point in bringing that up is if every 100 poly bags, I have to open a new box and then open a new piece of plastic, it slows me down.
Yeah.
So that's what I looked at as far as efficiency. The other thing being I had set up 2 stations, but number one, they weren't long enough, because I would have to move the product this way, move it back this way, move it back this way until I was done with prep. So I created one long station, and then it's going to be based off of, polybag here, labeling here, boxing here, and then I've got a pallet scale.
Well, it sounds like you don't have a time suck anymore, because
a
time suck. So when I came down to help you out, I mean, the biggest time suck was first of all, was organizing everything. So, having to go through. So the biggest difference with this is what I'm talking about. It's like, you're just doing the scanning now, right?
So we're not even talking about books. We're talking about like bulk products that show up on pallets from suppliers. So it'd be very similar to your alcohol world. The difference is, instead of it showing up and like, say you've got 30 cases of something on a pallet, and that store orders 15 and that store orders 15, you just got to separate it and send it. Instead, we actually have to open it, because where in that world, you were kind of B2B, like it was your business to the retailers. You know, we were more B2C, where it's business to an end consumer. And so we'll get a pallet, say, of 700 units, but we sell them in pairs. Well, there's many different ways that you can pair them up, but the end of the story is Amazon is not going to grab one and grab another one and send it to the customer. They want to just grab one. And so you have to make 2 units into a single unit, and you can do that with tape, straps, zip ties, or poly is one of the most common ways of doing it.
Yeah.
So if we get a pallet of
it sounds like our bottom line.
Yeah. So if we get a pallet of 700 units and we need to turn that into 350 pairs, then we open each box. So that's
you need flow rack. That's what you need.
Yeah,
that'll help you. So that's exactly what we did for. So we did the same thing. We would break cases open because bars and restaurants wouldn't necessarily order 15 cases of one item. They'd order 25 bottles of, 18 different items.
Yeah.
And so instead of having to break, we would just have it all staged and people working there. So they just pull a bottle here, put it there, pull a bottle here, put it there. And it would just work its way down the line. And then we had velocity reports that we would look at and say, okay, these individual bottles or these individual cases move this fast. And then we kind of broke our lines down and said, this is how we mapped it out. So this is where all of our fast stuff goes. It's where all of our medium speed stuff goes. This is where all the really slow stuff goes. And then everything outside of that is an oddball and is bulk pulled.
Yeah. So we can set up that way. The truth is though, like because even though we are selling to a consumer, we're sending all of it to the same place. So I think basically we aren't going to be storing a lot.
Right.
I have a fuck ton of inventory in the warehouse right now because I just got done training one guy, and the next guy doesn't start training till Monday. So
how many people you got working for you now?
Just 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a process because like one guy I really liked, I talked to him. I had to make sure everybody was on the same page. And then at the end of it, I called him up to make him an offer, and he was like, hey, I've been kind of bedridden. My back is screwed up. I don't want to start and then, a week into it, be like, oh, hey, it's not for me or it's not going to work because of my health. And I said, well, I respect that. Let us know if anything changes. So I went from a decent flow of getting somebody hired on to kind of backtracking. And then we were in a discussion as to whether or not we should get 2 to 4 part-time people. Because if one falls off, you still have 3 more, But I was like, it's going to be difficult to retain employees if we're not offering full-time at least.
Yeah.
But then you run into a similar problem. So what we're doing right now is we're offering full-time out the gate. Training is 1 week. Probationary period is 30 days. So you get trained inside of a week. That allows you to see at least a full shipment from beginning to end. And then after the 30 days, they're looking at a pay increase. But everybody also gets bonus based off of productivity, which is measured against themselves as opposed to the company. Because my standard, like, dude, if you see me prep shit and I time myself and I time batches, like, but I've been doing this for 5 years. So.
Yeah, but how do you get so here's the thing. Where do you set your KPIs up to be better? So yeah, you're bonusing at a guy who can on average move whatever it is, a minute, 2 minutes from start to end on one package. So if his bonus is if you can do, X amount of packages in an 8-hour work shift, that's kind of his goal is to hit that. But once he starts hitting that every week and you're bonusing him that on every week, how do you then say, okay, now where's the line where we're going to push the increase? Like a goal is something like, if this is what I want you to, a bonus is something that if you're going to have it, it's something that should be easily attainable, but is also pushing to increase productivity. So if you're hitting kind of a plateau and saying, okay, this is what you're doing it consistently, then you need to start taking the step back as as a manager or someone who's, in charge of that side of the business going, all right, you can regularly do this. So I've set this to be too easy for you, or you're too experienced now. So let's now increase it to increase our productivity.
So,
but then you have to battle their culture, because then they become you're in that fine line of, now it's an expectation. Hey, I'm hitting my marks that we originally set. Why are you increasing my marks? Because I'm hitting them all the time.
Yeah.
Why are you now making it harder for me?
Yeah.
So that's kind of the fine line.
So it's going to be, a lot of it's going to be based off their own individual performance, because one guy I hired is 19 and the other guy is 49. So one guy, the 19-year-old, he's really good at computers and stuff. It's also kind of structured that if we get somebody in there and all they want to do the rest of their life is apply labels to shit, perfect. We've got that station. We can totally accommodate. But we get somebody else in there and they're like, I want to learn, I want to grow, I want to understand the big picture. Then we're also set up for that too. So part of it's going to be a little competition based. So, maybe you versus me, you versus that guy, whatever. Part of it's going to be based off of their baseline. So the first week that I trained that guy, I told him the amount of time it takes you does not matter. I still timed him because I wanted to see where he was at, whether or not he was improving as he learned, like, for example, if you open up, and it was probably the same for you guys. So if you open up a case of these spray bottles over here and then you process that case, it will take you longer to do more than if you set a bunch of cases on the table, open up a bunch of cases, polybag a bunch of bottles, label a bunch of polybags. He was doing 12 at a time, and I went through and I think I did 72 at a time. And so obviously by the time I got to the boxing step, I was behind him.
Well, this is where you need processes and procedures, because this is where you get everybody pushing towards the same goal, right? If you're leaving it up too much to, you need to read the book. First off, you need to read Traction. It's about EOS. I don't know if you've ever read. It's about Entrepreneur Operating System, and it's literally about people.
I'll look that up.
Really good book. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to read it, because that basically lays out, I think it's like the 5 or 6 things to get everybody from management down to the lowest of the low employees pushing towards the same goal. Yep. So management says, this is where our goal is. Now, how do we get that goal down to, the on the lowest level of labor, and have everyone pushing towards the same way? Yep. A lot of that is vision. You need to have a vision. That vision needs to be clearly stated as to, okay, this is what we're doing. This is our goal. And then you need to have processes and procedures in place that says, all right, look, this is who we are. This is what we're doing. This is how we're going to do it. And this is how we're going to push to it.
So I think the main thing I learned is that, because we have an SOP.
Yeah.
I'm writing one very detailed, so that any dummy comes in behind me, something happens to me, they can read that, know exactly how to do anything in that warehouse.
You need to, retraction.
The main thing, I'm going to read that book, but the main thing was, the reason he was doing a single case is I think he misunderstood me, because I was like, yeah, so you just take them out, and I demonstrated, and I think he just missed, like, oh, okay, I'm supposed to open as many boxes at once. So what was good about that is at the end of it, when I was just talking to him, and he was like, oh, I'm trying to figure out how to do it faster. And so what I was doing was spot checking periodically. So I was like, well, here's what I noticed. You did X, Y, Z. You do it, instead of doing it that way, do it this way. And then I showed him, I was like, so how many boxes did you finish, since you got? He was like 3. And I was like, in the same amount of time I did 6. Did you see how I had my station set up? And he was like, yes. And I was like, that's what's going to help you. I will tell you, in moving things, the way I talked about at the beginning, the difference is, instead of a single person processing batches.
Yeah, you have multiple people.
Well, yeah, but we're also looking at them only doing one thing.
Yeah.
So my KPI measurement before was based off of a finished case. So if there's a finished case there, because I know, and one thing I love about this is I can tell based off of, if we're prepping that product, I know how many is going to fit in a box, what type of box to use. And the reason we have that all laid out is because we can plan the shipments more accurately.
Mm-hmm.
I know exactly how many pallet or how many boxes go onto a pallet, how much the total pallet weighs. Like I don't have to weigh every single box.
Right.
Number one, because if we're prepping 700 units and that's 100 boxes, you only have to weigh one box.
Right.
And our biggest seller, I have already predetermined all of those things, what polybag it uses, how to set up the label and stuff. But if we get the stuff down here and one person does the unboxing, one person does polybag, one person does the labeling, how do I measure that? Because sure, like at the end, I'll have a total number of boxes, but I need is it just going to be a team and then divided by the number of people? Or?
Well, there's many ways you can do it. So you can do it that way. You can look at what is your incoming versus outgoing numbers. So if you're receiving or bringing in to kind of break apart, 100 boxes, how long will it take for one person to break down those 100 boxes? If that's in a given day, right? So you can then have a station set up to where this guy is. So if you're in that rotation on the schedule that day for it to be whatever you want to call it, receiving, you should be able to receive 100 boxes in X amount of time, break them down, put them away for the next event in that case's life cycle, right? So the life cycle of a case is going to be from the moment it gets into your door to the moment it leaves.
Yeah.
So you can break that life cycle down however you want. You can make it a team and say, okay, I'm going to just do a pieces per hour or case per hour and say we should as a team be processing, X amount of cases per hour on shipping out. Right. What I have found, what I personally think works best from my experience, and this is from my world and it's not right for everybody, is you do kind of you do an average of the two. So you do a team one but you also do an individual, because if you're doing a team one and that's all you're doing. So let's say you have 3 guys and you tell them all the same 3 goals. Well, you may have 2 guys who are busting their ass to try and hit that goal. And you may have one guy's like, those guys will get it for me. And so then you start creating a lot of animosity. But if you do a individual goal, then maybe everybody just starts looking at, this isn't my fault. It's the other guy's fault for me not hitting my number. So then you start building, that's kind of the negative side to competition. But if you kind of balance it to where you say, okay, X amount of your bonus is based on the team goal and X amount of your bonus is based on an individual goal. And then you lay out what those goals are and how you're measuring them.
I guess my question is, because basically, say I put this guy on labeling and this guy on polybagging. If polybag guy is super fast and label guy is super slow, he's going to slow down polybag guy because it's going to back up.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually we run out of space. So in that setup, I understand how to do a team goal because I can just count the number of cases and figure out how many items we.
Well, that's where the individual and the team mix is good. Where one guy is bonus for both a team and as an individual, because if he realizes that my team is slowing down because the guy behind me or in front of me in the line is moving too slow, I'll catch up on my shit and then run and help him.
Okay.
And help him process and then go back. Some people are motivated by that ultimate dollar figure and those bonuses. So if he recognizes, if you find someone like that who's like, hey, yeah, it's going to be extra work for me, but fuck, that means I'm also going to get paid more. I'm going to fucking do it.
He said, but fuck.
Yeah, but fuck.
So the other thing I was going to do too is our top seller borderline justifies a full-time employee. That's fucking crazy because you're talking about I'm going to wing it here, and I'm going to say 20 to 40 SKUs in total. He's adding more all the time because we have an end of year goal that we want to hit, and that's going to require more SKUs. But basically, our top seller is somebody could come to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, work on that product alone for 8 hours and go home. And they could do that 5 days a week. So the only reason we haven't necessarily pulled the trigger yet is, number one, we're looking into a machine that is going to, I can process that product, which it also takes more work than anything else because it's a little more private label. So as opposed to just taking 2 of something, throwing it in a poly bag, it's like taking one of 2 different products. And then after the poly bag, you have an additional prep step, and then you have to apply the label. So it consumes the most amount of time. But me working as fast
why don't
and
you
efficient
why don't you put the label at the forefront?
So you could technically, I think, I could be wrong about this. I think you can put the labels on the products before they're poly bagged. I could be wrong. However, if Amazon goes to scan a label and it doesn't scan, then they charge you a manual processing.
Oh, do they?
So if the poly bag is wrinkled or anything, and the same goes on the outside, but I think they may have switched it to where it's required to be on the exterior of the poly bag.
So the reason I ask is because if I'm setting this up, first of all, how do you know what is driving your people to put stuff into a poly bag? That's an order, right?
So it's an order, but it's a work order. So it'll say
like it's a piece of paper.
We need 450 units.
Yeah, but it's a piece of paper that says you need 450 units to go to this one address.
Well, I mean, sure.
Right? Like we arbitrary number.
Generally speaking, we ship to the Charlotte DC.
Yeah. You're not shipping to the Garner one? Is the Garner one even open yet?
It is open. It has been for a while, but I think because the way Amazon sets up, so I think that's an FC fulfillment center.
No, that's a DC. The one in Garner is definitely a DC. It's like 3 million square feet.
I think part of it has to do with the length of time the Charlotte one's been there, and that this one's so new.
They may be transitioning to it.
But I've seen us send one small parcel shipment to a different distribution center, and that was one in Virginia.
They probably haven't set it up yet.
They may just...
That has got to be it. That thing, if that's a fulfillment center, that is the largest fucking fulfillment center I've ever fucking... That thing's like 2 to 3 million square feet. It's fucking huge.
At least before COVID, they offered tours, and I wanted to go over there, but during COVID...
No, that is a distribution center because there were... When I was unemployed looking for... Or actually, no, it was before I was unemployed. I was kind of thinking, man, I'd probably want to leave this company because it wasn't doing well. And I so happened to go I saw that an operations manager job over at Amazon. I didn't get the job, but and I know why I didn't get the job. Not because they told me, but my heart, like kind of halfway through the interview, I was like, man, this fucking sucks. I don't want to work for these people.
You are correct. From a third party perspective, I love Amazon. I hate it when people bash them because it's like, oh, they're so rich. I'm like, yeah, but like a third of their revenue is third party sellers.
Yeah.
Fees from third party sellers. Yeah. So what that means is every time they win, somebody else wins. But I talked to a guy who got fired, and I don't think he had a boss or a supervisor or, it was basically like he showed up and somebody was like, hey, here's the PDA.
Yeah.
It tells you what to do, when to do it, how to do it.
So area managers have, at the Gardner Center.
Yeah.
So you have different levels of management. So you've got basically 4 operations managers reporting to, so you have the director of operations or president of operations, whatever it's called,
sure,
who has basically 4 operations managers under them. Those 4 operations managers work, there are 2 days and 2 nights. So, and they work kind of a staggered shift, but 7 days a week, essentially. So basically it's like a Saturday through like Wednesday or something, or Thursday. And then the other shift is like Wednesday through Sunday or whatever the fuck it is.
So it's like 12 hours a day.
Yeah, it's like 12 fucking hours a day.
Because it's a 24-hour.
Yeah. So it's so that means your counter. So so let's say you're the day operations manager. I'm the night operations manager for however they design it for that first half of the week.
Yeah.
We would have overlapping shifts, and then we would have X amount of area managers under us, and those area managers would have like 200 to 300 employees under them. That's how that's the scale of it, as it sounded. But I don't know the details. I mean, that's kind of the general.
They have that many people.
Well, so going through the interview process for the operations manager piece of it, so after the first phone call, I did well on the phone interview, and I'm like, okay.
I like how you're like halfway through it. I was like, nah.
So
I don't want to work.
So the phone interview was very.
It was a person though.
It was every step of the way was a person. It was all virtual or phone.
Okay.
Because of COVID. But so like the first interview was okay. There wasn't a lot of questions. It was very general, but like at the start, they were like, make sure, because they email you. So you go through, you do your application. Once you are approved, they send you like assessments to do. And so you do these assessments and you go and you have to do them on their website. And you're kind of like, okay, I've had to do assessments before. I get it. Sure. Usually I have to do assessments after I've talked to someone, but I was like, all right, it's just how they do things. Then you get a phone call and you're like, hey, we want to kind of proceed forward with you. So this is what we want to do. And then they set up a phone call with someone at their corporate level or wherever. And then you get on the phone with them. And that's usually about 45 minutes. At least mine was. And it was not a lot of me asking questions. And the questions I did ask, the guy had absolutely zero answers for. He's like, oh, you'll find that out on the next level of interviews. And I'm like, well, this is I'm not like talking about what my salary is or benefits or anything like that. I'm asking, what do you guys offer? Like is there opportunity for me to, go and get higher education or anything like that? Is there, are there certifications that you guys offer that would help me in my personal growth? Oh no, we're not talking about that. Okay, cool.
I half wonder if it's not because the person you were speaking to just straight up didn't know. But how would they not know if they work for the company? I mean,
it's someone within the HR world. They shouldn't have that.
They're like, all right, these are the questions you can answer, and these are the ones you can't. And they're like, I can answer 4 questions.
Yeah, so it was very impersonal. So then I do and it was a 5-hour long interview process on Zoom where I met with 4 different people individually.
Yeah.
And at the end, so the first part of it, we are in a group meeting and it's like taking the SATs. They're like, we want you to do this. Train leaves the station at 45 miles an hour traveling, and you're like, hold on, what the fuck is going on? Yeah. And about so 5 minutes into it, I'm like, I feel like I'm a cog and I'm supposed to be a manager who's supposed to be leading people. Like, how if I'm feeling kind of this dejection from the company, how am I then supposed to turn around and lead people?
I mean,
I don't understand.
In all fairness, number one, look at Jeff Bezos. Robot.
Yeah, he's a fucking robot.
Number one. And number two, sure, even if you were the director of operations, the most senior operations person at that location, Amazon is the largest, most worldwide company there is. So you're fucking nobody.
Yeah. Yeah. You're an absolute.
You could be the most senior operations person at that facility. Oh, absolutely. And you're fucking nobody.
Well, but those were the questions I was asking on the phone interview. Like, hey, what do you guys do to show employee appreciation? How do you guys do this? What is it that you guys do for that? Because I'm trying to get, where is your company culture at?
Yeah.
Is it something that I have personal beliefs with?
Yeah.
And a lot of that they could not answer. And I'm just like, okay. Because I've as a manager, your biggest asset, and I don't care what industry you're in, whether it's distribution, whether it's hospitality, your number one asset is the people who are working for you.
Yes.
That is where your biggest cost savings is going to come from. How often are you turning people over? How often do you have to hire and train new people? There's a cost related to all of that. And if you're not taking care of your people and you're constantly having to go back out, find someone new to hire them, only to replace them in a few months, you've got a problem. You are spending money you don't need to be spending. And you are taking away from growth because you are constantly having to turn around and rebuild from the ground up.
I agree with you 100%.
So
I brought that up to a guy a while back. He was in charge of this one company. And his argument was, well, I've done it before, I'll do it again. And I'm like, but I'm right here telling you that you have an issue. Like, I have my ear to the ground. I'm aware of
there's a fine line. Like, I'm not going to let an hourly associate dictate to me how I'm going to run my business.
Right.
I'm not, you don't get that option, bro. Like, where I'm currently working, they kind of go to the extreme. So there is a middle of the road, a balance you have to find where you were like,
if somebody came to you and presented a problem,
oh yeah,
it was not like, hey, I don't like that I have to be at work on time. It was like, hey, I heard 10 other guys talking about X, Y, and Z. Thought you might want to know about this.
So yeah, so but you're going to have to deal with that no matter what. They're going to be, so working in distribution as a manager and being around a lot of drivers are probably, from my experience, the hardest working group in any distribution environment. And it's all hard work in a warehouse. I mean, it's very physical. But the drivers by far have the hardest, I think, most physically demanding job.
She is asleep, but the
cone is propping her up. Yeah. But so drivers also, so my theory on drivers is a complaining driver is a happy driver, because every day my best drivers would always have complaints.
Okay.
Every day. And they aren't complaining about and it's usually not things about safety or problems. It's usually about other people not doing their jobs. Like, hey, the loading crew really fucked this one up because here it is. My labels should be easy for me to see, and they're not. I've got to bend over and turn the case so I can see the label. Like, all right, yes, I get that's extra work for you, and you've got 800 cases on your truck. And that's a problem.
Drivers, and I learned that the other day. I was like, we don't have drivers that we employ. The drivers that we deal with are for
Amazon or 3PL.
XPO, ACT.
Fuck those guys. If they come to you and bitch about you, be like, hey, bro, you don't work for me. Go.
Well, so the one who made a comment about it was like talking about the pro number being on the pallet, and I was like, yeah, it's on there. Like, I gave my guy, I watched him apply it, and they were on there. It's just all the pallets were turned into fashion going on the truck. I thought it didn't matter.
No,
I thought they scan it once it gets to the depot, so that means they pull.
No, he's got to scan it because that's him building his BOL.
We have him sign the BOL.
Oh, you're building the BOL?
Well, I think Amazon does it. It just comes in the email, and I print 2 copies.
And you give him what he signs for it and takes it.
He signs, I sign. He gets one, I get one.
Yeah.
So, but if it makes his job or anybody else's job easier, and we print 4 and put one each side, fine. Amazon actually requires their FBA pallet labels to have one on all 4 sides. So the only reason I didn't do that with the shipping labels, the pro number, is because they're not Amazon. So I don't, as long as, I mean, I've sent pallets before for Amazon LTL, and I didn't know that number existed or how to get those labels or where they came from. And I just sent it, and the driver just got in his truck and had like a sheet of them.
Yeah. And he was trying to check.
Pulled it off and just put it on for me. And then was like, yeah, it should be in your email, but if it's not, it's cool. Like, some of them are really cool, some of them aren't. But I think
even though they don't work for us, the exception to the hardest working thing is just one guy. Just one. Because Ben, I'm going to name drop because these guys are awesome. Ben with XPO, he shows up. He helps me load. He helps me unload. He talks to me.
Dude, there are drivers that go out of their way. Like, and this is every industry. I've worked, and I'm in lumber and construction supplies now. I've been in the liquor world. There are drivers that will go out of their way.
The UPS guy down there, his name is Brandon. He's the shit.
Yeah, there are guys that will fucking go and it's amazing because I think there are more drivers like that than there are shitbags.
I can agree with
drivers.
That. There's one guy, and I don't know who he was. I don't even remember the company. All I know is he showed up and he was like, "Here's your stuff." Usually they'll pull it off the truck because it's like, well, that's my, like, if you come on my truck and something happens. Nah, this dude was like, "You got a bathroom?" Nothing. I had to take it off the truck.
So
like,
there was in my career.
Let's put it this way: we don't have a forklift yet.
Yeah, you have a pallet jack
because we've got two.
Yeah,
but I was like, well, there's a hill for the outside.
This is probably the most boring podcast for veterans to listen to right now.
Okay, well, it's not boring for me. Because
they're like, why are these two just talking about distribution shit? What the fuck? No,
because I'm working to improve certain things, but there's a hill, so I have an electric pallet jack for the hill for the exterior dock. The inside dock is floor level, so that's fine. But
wait, do you not have you have dock height though, right? Doors?
Yeah, so it's kind of difficult to explain, but the warehouse is like across this whole thing, right?
Yeah.
You have this giant fucking door that opens, and then you have two interior docks. That's dock height.
Yeah.
On the very end of the building, you have two docks, dock height.
Yeah.
Right. But the door that you open to get to the exterior docks, right? Inside that door, there's a hill that goes down to the warehouse.
I'd have to see it.
So the entire warehouse is on this level. But as soon as so basically the warehouse is level. You have the exterior docks. The warehouse is level with the floor.
Yeah.
Okay. So to get to the exterior docks, you have to go up a hill. If you're in the warehouse.
Makes absolutely no sense.
So you go up this hill, there's a garage door, you open the garage door, you're on the exterior dock.
I'd have to see it.
So the truck drivers don't have to. The truck drivers just back up the dock like normal.
Yeah.
But it's almost like if you were standing there and that's the dock, in order to get up on top of the dock, you would have to stairs, you would have to jump, you would have to walk around.
I'd have to go look at it because the way you're describing it, I'm trying to visualize. I'm like, I don't know if it's because I'm drunk or what.
Yeah,
this is beer number 2 for me, so I'm not drunk.
My dad's been driving trucks for 30 plus years, and I explained it to him, and he was like, I don't get it.
I don't understand what the fuck you're trying to say.
So let's put it this way. We got an electric pallet jack. I thought that was going to handle the fact that I have to go up a hill. It's obviously not a very steep hill because we use it for loading, unloading, deliveries, everything. And the barrel guy, you would love meeting him. His name is Chris. He runs Southeast Barrel something or other.
The barrel guy?
The barrel guy. He sells barrels
for liquor? Like casks?
So he gets them from those places. He doesn't sell them new. There are some that are.
He's a barrel broker.
Yeah, but he doesn't sell them to some of the large liquor brand name companies. He gets them from there.
Right. And he sells them to smaller. He either sells them to smaller distilleries
or breweries or mom and pop looking at having a barrel outside of their country store.
Yeah. Yep. I had a barrel broker working through the company I worked at, the distillery I worked for, which I was like, I want your fucking job. That dude called this distillery and was like, hey, I'm in the cognac region of France at a cognac distillery, and they've just emptied out 40-year-old cognac and are getting ready to get rid of this barrel. I can wrap it up and ship it to you for aging whiskey. And we were like, send it. And so he wrapped it up and shipped it to us, and we had to pay for it, of course. I was like, dude, I want your fucking job. You just travel around the world, like going to distilleries and wineries and looking for like barrels that they no longer want to sell to other that are still not neutral, that still can be put stuff in. I was like, I want your fucking job. That's an awesome job.
Well, this guy, I feel like he's a lot more small time, but he sells on Etsy. He doesn't have a website yet, which is crazy.
But he probably also makes like furniture out of them. I'm like he makes stuff out of them.
He sells to people who do.
Okay. Because one of the guys I worked for
used to, but he was tired of making a nightstand and, Oh no,
I worked with, so the guy I worked with at the distillery, he would take neutral barrels. So once they could no longer be used for any kind of aging or flavoring, he would take the barrel, he would basically buy it from the distillery at like super discounted rate because it couldn't be used. And he'd go in and clean it up, sand it down, he made a bar out of one, which was really awesome. So like it was an actual, so if you walked in, how he made it was, it basically looked like a barrel. So you put it in someone's room and it was like, why do you have this barrel here? And you could open it up and it had like glass hanging in it and like racks for wine and for beer. Nice. And shit. It was fucking nice. And he like coated it. It was really nice. He sold that thing for like $800. Like it was insane.
So the bluff or the bottom line up front with this guy is my entire workspace always smells like bourbon.
Well, you need to tell him to fucking bring you some bourbon. We should do a bourbon day one day, man. Where instead of we drinking beer, we just drink bourbon.
I'm down. So
you're gonna have to Uber out here one day.
I'm down, but I'll get with him because he actually will sometimes receive barrels
with liquor in them
with residual in it.
Yeah, I know.
So
yeah, that happens. So
it's obviously not just pour and drink. Like he has to filter out the wood chips.
No, fuck that. Yeah. Leave that shit in there.
Oh, okay.
Shit's good. You want to go downstairs? I still got some 100, I think it's like 112, 113 proof whiskey from the distillery I worked at, where we were transferring barrels and we had extra left over. How we had extra left over, we still couldn't figure out. So we filled up beer growlers with whiskey and sealed them and just took them home.
Nice.
So I still have, it's straight. I mean, it's probably 9-month-old whiskey sat in a barrel for 9 months, and yeah, it's good shit. But when we got the cognac barrel shipped to us, when we got it, we unwrapped it and opened it up. There was still about 2.5 gallons of liquid in there.
Holy shit.
And that was just from the seeping out of the wood, because it goes into the wood. So the aging process and distillation, when you throw a spirit in there, the liquid's actually moving in and out of the wood. So the wood is actually soaking it up and putting it back. So there's this kind of like circulation thing happening.
Huh.
So when we got it, there was like 2.5 gallons or 2 gallons of 40-year-old cognac in there. And our first reaction was, fuck yeah, let's drink this shit. And the owner of the distillery was like, whoa, we had a siphon that we could test our products with. We put a siphon in, take it out, and pour a little taster of it to make sure it was doing what it needed to be doing. But so we took that, we each got like a less than a quarter ounce pour and tasted like straight 40-year-old cognac, which was really fucking good. And I'm not a cognac fan. And then he just looked and said, all right, we just grabbed a barrel of whiskey that was already ready to bottle. And we just poured it in to that barrel. We just mixed it and blended it. So there was some 40-year-old cognac that we basically blended with one of our 2-year-old whiskeys. And we let it sit for another year in that barrel, in the 40-year-old cognac barrel. And it was fucking delicious. That whiskey came out like That thing's so when we did not distribute, you could only come to the distillery and pick it up. But or you could go to one of our pop-up tastings because we did pop-up tastings all the time, and we would bring cases with us, and you could buy bottles at the pop-up tasting. And people would I'd have that at every pop-up tasting. I'd pour them a little sip of it, and they were like, "Oh my God, that's fucking good." I'm like, yeah, you want a bottle of it? $85. And they'd be like, "I'll take 2. Yes, you will. Because this shit is good.
Oh, wow.
That was good shit. We sold out of it. Actually, right before I moved out, so they made a bunch of cases out of that. And right before I moved out of Colorado, they were down to like the last 4 bottles of it. And I went into the distillery, and I was talking with the owner. At the time, he was still the owner, and my buddy who was still there. And they were like, "Oh man, it sucks you're leaving for Louisiana." I was like, "Yeah, but I'll come back and visit, and hopefully be back here in Colorado in a few years," and blah blah blah. Like, all right, here. And they just gave me one of the bottles, and it was so fucking good. Like, I took it down to Louisiana with me, and I would share it with some of my neighbors and friends and stuff down there. And they're like, "Where did you get this?" I was like, "You can't anymore. It's out. It's gone." Like,
that's crazy.
Fucking good shit.
I didn't know you could just mix like that.
Oh yeah, you can blend. Yeah, so like, there's a lot of blends out there.
Yeah,
yeah. Most stuff is blended.
Where do they come up with it? They're just like, "Oh, here's a barrel with some shit still in it." Like,
no, so most people have a formula where they blend it. Like, they're like Crown Royal is blended Canadian whiskey.
Huh.
So when you're making whiskey or bourbon or whatever, each batch is going to be different.
Yeah.
Like, so what you do is you essentially age your stuff on what's called the Solera system. And then you're constantly mixing your batches up.
Yeah.
So you're constantly blending your whiskeys to kind of get the most consistent flavor. So that way one bottle's not like, "Oh man, this is the greatest shit ever." And then you go next week and buy a bottle from another batch, and you're like, this did not taste as good. You kind of want that even keel across the board.
Yeah.
So a lot of places will blend, but there are Scotch blends. There are people that will straight up blend alcohol. Like, they'll take bourbon and whiskey and blend it together. They'll make a bourbon, they'll make a whiskey, and then after they're done in their aging process, will then throw them together and blend them together.
Yeah.
There are Scotch blends. There's all sorts of blends. You can blend a lot of shit.
I think one of my favorites is probably when which I don't know if this is considered a blend, but they started adding honey to whiskey. So my first,
You mean like a hot toddy? You know what a hot toddy is? It's like tea, honey, and whiskey.
No,
Hot tea with some honey and a little bit of whiskey.
So
it's great for you if you're ever sick. You ever got like dry throat? Fucking do a hot toddy, man. It's awesome.
My first experience with it was Wild Turkey Golden Honey.
Yeah, I mean, that's just flavoring.
Okay,
that's not. I mean, most stuff is actually is considered blend, unless you're getting something that's like single barrel aged. It's going to be blended.
So okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah, most stuff, what they're doing is aging it and transferring it around through the Solera system. So you're putting the newest stuff kind of on top and then filtering it all down to the older stuff to fill up, letting it continue aging. And then from the bottom, you're emptying it out and bottling that and then transferring everything back down in steps. It's not all done at once, but there's kind of like a process. So it's like kind of top down aging. So you're blending it all together. Unless it says single barrel, I'm fairly certain that's the way. It's been a long time since I've worked in the alcohol world. Memory serves. And I could be completely fucking wrong. And if someone's listening to this who's like more into liquor than I am, I mean, I've been out of this world for a long time, but from what I remember, that's the process.
So single barrel is unblended.
Pretty much. It's like, this is the only thing this liquid has touched is this one barrel.
Okay. think of it. I didn't know what single barrel meant, so now I do.
Single barrel.
Yeah. So his name is Chris. He's got a forklift. He cruises in and out of that little hill to get to the outside dock. No problem. So
He's got this is the barrel guy?
yeah. So
He just has a forklift sitting at your warehouse?
well, yeah, because it's shared space.
Oh.
Yeah. So the entire, I mean, this warehouse is fucking huge. We only rent a single space.
Okay.
But one of my first goals is forklift, but you have to look.
You can buy a used forklift.
Yeah, but
I'm a certified trainer. I'll show you my card. Sorry. We had an Osha inspection. So I've been working at this company for 3 months, and there was a bullshit complaint against us from before I started working there. And one of the things was about forklifts. And I'm like, nope, not true. Here's my certification. Oh, yeah. I'm a certified train the trainer.
I of course will look into that so that we have it. But
Dude, I will teach you all about OSHA. If you're going to be in a warehouse, I got you, bro.
I thought they changed it.
It changes all the fucking time.
No, I thought they changed it from OSHA to they called it something.
No, it's OSHA.
Okay.
It's still OSHA.
Not even super worried about it. But
You should be, because if they come in and find something wrong, it's a fine. It's huge.
Well,
you don't say that. The government's listening, man. Don't be like, I'm not worried about OSHA. And next thing you know, OSHA's at your door like, oh, really, motherfucker? Here's your $35,000 fine for violating shit.
Well, you can't violate forklift operations and policies without a.
There you go.
There is that. But my number one thing is my dad is super duper advocate for Ritchie Brothers. It's an auction site for heavy equipment. Fine. But I also want to make sure that whatever we get, because if you buy it from eBay or somewhere else used or something like that, you have to pay for freight. So it's like, I want to take into consideration how high it's going to go, the type of power. So for a gas operated one.
Are you inside?
Yeah.
Get battery.
Propane operated has better resale.
Yeah, I know, but trust me.
And everyone else has a propane operated.
So my problem with propane is that there is exhaust that can exist with propane. If you're in an indoor environment with propane, over time, what ends up happening is
this warehouse is large enough. There's a company beside us that parks 2 of their trucks in there. I drive in there. Chris drives in there. Like, we all drive in there. It's large enough that the ventilation, and they have regular inspections because they had cross contamination with some random ass chemical that no one's ever heard of.
So in New Orleans, we had some propane, and there's just this gross film that kind of forms after, and this building was very, very old. You don't kind of get that with batteries. I like batteries. I think they battery powered, last a lot longer. They're a lot quieter. And instead of having to replace an entire forklift, you really only have to replace the battery. And a battery is like $2,000, and that $2,000 will last you 6 years.
You're the first person I met who advocates for.
I prefer battery.
So the battery powered forklifts you have experience with, they have charging stations.
Yep.
Or do you plug them directly in the wall?
Charging stations. You have to buy a charger.
Because I had a high lift in Durham that used the charger, and it was different. It was much older, so to replace the battery would be $7,000.
Yeah,
but I'm pretty sure the overall machine, brand new, is probably close to 25. I
would buy Crown. I think my Crown lifts were. I'm trying to remember. I think I could get a Crown lift, a brand new Crown lift, for like $8,000.
So
that was battery operated. And I could get, of course, my entire company that was nationwide had we're on nothing but Crown.
Yeah.
We had some Heisters, we had some other brands, but it was mainly Crown. So we would get all of our pickers, all of our reach trucks, all of our counterbalances through Crown. And so we would not have to pay as much because we were getting so much nationwide.
Yeah.
I'm fairly certain.
I'll look into it. I was dead set on propane, but the other advantage is
carbon footprint, man. Come on.
Well, what I'm thinking is if you're using a propane forklift and it runs out, then you just change the tank.
Yeah.
But if you use electric forklift and it runs out, you got to plug it in.
Yeah, you're going to have to, yeah.
But we also, one of the reasons
it's not going to
forklift yet is because we don't, we receive maybe 2 times a week and we send maybe once.
Yeah, you don't need I would get a walk ride.
We need something right now because I just took 6 pallets that weighed over 1,000 pounds each out to the dock, and I had to all but pull them up that hill.
Yeah, you need you probably need like a walk ride. So
an electric pallet jack that you can sit on.
It's not when you sit on; it's when you stand on.
Yeah.
So basically, you can use it as an electric, or it's got a little space on it, so you can stand up on it and then pull. It's really it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you hold on here. So, so if this is your handle, right, where you come down. I know what
you're talking about. The guys at the other end got one, but I don't think I want to go from a manual / electric pallet jack we have now to a walk ride to a forklift. I don't see the point.
Well, so do you have anything that you need to put up on shelving?
Not right now.
I would rent a walk ride. There's no reason for you to get something where because even a sit down, the forks can go up. Oh, you're just leaving? You're storming out. You're storming the fuck out. Hey, everyone. Thanks again for listening. Hope you enjoyed the show. I'm Joe.
My name is Ryan.
Please don't forget to click that like button. We can be found on anywhere you get your podcast. And also, don't forget to go down below and click the link for Soldier Girl Coffee.
This is the Veteran Talk Show. If you or someone you love is suffering as a victim of sexual harassment, sexual assault, needs help with addiction and recovery, or mental health and well-being, then please go to veterantalkshow.com/resources. This show is hosted, produced, and edited by Ryan Smeltz. Our co-host is Joe Ballack, and guest starring veterans.